This is the time of the year when people have questions on their minds, and sometimes the question is, well, what is it that you want? Maybe it's a little bit of a shopping thing, but what is it that you want is often kind of close to the top of the list for a lot of people. Seems to me, just in listening to folks, that this day and this age, people crave authenticity. They're looking for things that are truthful things that matter. People sometimes ask, should I believe in you? Should I trust you? Will you or someone or something be there when I really need you? What are people looking for? Well, family and friends who are true. Spouses who are truer. Well, what else is there? Well, it's kind of wide open, isn't it? I mean, do you trust your doctor? Do you trust your coworkers? Do you trust the church or the government or the local schools? Do you trust your neighbors? Do you trust your teammates? Do you trust your laptop to work? Do you trust your seatbelts and your airbags? People wonder who to trust and just how much to trust. People kind of long for folks who just don't talk the talk, but they walk the walk. And it seems that one of the signs of our time is that we don't put much trust in institutions today, or sadly in one another. That's sad to admit, isn't it? With that as a backdrop for where people seem to be, Advent, we are reminded, is a season of rising hope and joy and expectation. We're moving closer to celebrating the birth of Christ and celebrating his coming in glory. The chosen people have been waiting for many, many, many generations for the coming of a Messiah. And they have seen hopeful signs from time to time. I guess the question is, are these hopes real or are they false hopes? How do you know if this one is the one? What's the measure? In our gospel today, we hear from John the Baptist. At this point in Matthew's gospel, John's in prison. He hears about what Jesus is doing. And John sends his disciples, and yes, John has disciples. He sends his disciples to find out. Go and ask Jesus the question, are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another? Well, what a great question. John's disciples asked it in his day because they were looking for authenticity. It was a question then, it's a question now too, isn't it? Let's go back to the first reading a minute. Prophet Isaiah. Isaiah writes that there's an announcement that here is our Lord, our God. And Isaiah lists the markers, the benchmarks that show that God is truly God and God is truly among us. What will God do? Here's Isaiah's list. Eyes will be opened, ears will be cleared, the lame will walk and the mute will sing. It's a list of things that God is going to do. Hey, what's that phrase we sometimes hear today? By these signs you will know them. By their fruits you will know them. Now let's go to the gospel a moment. And John's disciples are asking for John the Baptist, are you the one who is coming, or should we look for another? And Jesus responds to them. He takes their question very seriously, but he doesn't really give them an answer in the sense like he sometimes gives an answer to the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. John instead, his answer is a list of things that he has done and he will do. Go and tell John what you see and hear. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news preached to them. And blessed are those who take no offense at what I do. It's an invitation to John's disciples to go back to John and tell him, but also, come back. Can you serve? Can you serve Jesus? Jesus didn't answer them by just saying yes, or by recounting all the things he believes, and then, I guess by extension, telling John's disciples what they should believe. But he tells them what he's doing. Think again about Isaiah's list we heard in the first reading. Signs that God is in our midst. Jesus doesn't answer by telling those disciples what he believes, but he gives them a list of what he's doing. And he expects them to do the same. A list of what he's doing. Doesn't it sound a little odd? Hey, not really. I am old enough, but also young enough to remember my math teacher saying, show your work. Show me what you're doing. You will be judged by what deeds we have done. Like the readings we heard a few weeks ago on Sunday. It spoke of bearing fruit, good fruit. Belief? Yes. Foundations are strong and we build on foundations. But there is more tied to what we do. Do you know they are Christians by their love? Hey, someone should write a song about that. Do you know are they Christians by your love? Are you authentically Christian by the way you treat the poor, the hungry, the widow, and the orphan? Are you attentive personally when you walk with those in need of mercy and kindness and forgiveness? Authenticity is all about deeds. And Jesus reveals himself in words and in deeds. You and I, we're called to do the same. Let's prepare for his coming in word and deed.